just had to cut that bit. Kieran said that was a bit dodgy, what I've just said, so I'll start again. And I'll say, welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. Listening to a great bit of music. I just bought this album, by the way, and I'll explain about that a bit later. Lots of different things to talk about. Not sure what I love more: football, the music, God, my family, or the lovely girl at the pub I've just been to this afternoon. The better, okay. okay. I think it's the girl at the pub myself, but don't tell my wife. Okay. Or God. No, he can hear. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm in trouble there. I'm in trouble on my knees. Okay. Where do we start? Well, we've got Wycombe to talk about. The other thing I want to talk about: does running further than the opposition make a blind bit of difference? What's his name, Mr. Manchester United manager? Ten Hag had his whole Manchester United team out running backwards and forwards. They've won a few since. They won one this afternoon. Today is Sunday, although you hear this tomorrow. Does it make a difference? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that and the games this weekend. And there's been a few interesting games this afternoon. So let's start with Wycombe. Difficult because it's away and I wasn't there. I can listen to what other people had to say. I always listen to what the opposition had to say. I think sometimes you get a clearer picture about that. And I listened to one, and he really, really rates Wycombe Wanderers and their style.
Well, if it gives you any indication,
yeah,
the Fleetwood, whoever runs the Fleetwood Town Twitter account,
yeah,
isn't the biggest fan of us.
Oh, right, okay.
Because they do the tweet obviously to say how much added time there is. Their tweet was, all of Wycombe's time wasting has added up to 7 minutes of added time.
Why would Wycombe waste time? Surely Wycombe would have been grabbing that point and running, wouldn't they?
Hence, we're wasting time.
We wouldn't have wasted time. I would have been 10 players. Wycombe player got sent off after 10 minutes, and we walked away from a away game with a draw. I can't believe Wycombe were wasting time. Surely
not.
No, we wouldn't do that. And if we wanted to learn how to waste time, anybody will see the Newcastle game the other day. Struth, that was shocking. That was shocking. Okay, let's get on then. Wycombe won, and Fleetwood got one as well, which was a bit of a shame. Hardly surprising that they didn't get two, or was it?
Well, should we go through the events of the games one by one?
Yeah.
First of all, good old McCleary.
Elbowed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't look like he had too many complaints either, neither did anyone else.
He walked, didn't he? Nobody went running up to a referee.
And I think we said a couple of weeks ago on here how McCleary doesn't do too much away from home. He really didn't do too much away from home this time. He literally got sent off.
Do you think we should play him away from home?
You do wonder if it's genuinely a thing that he's not as good away from home, because it is evident. Like when we watch him at home, he is very, very decent, and will normally grab a couple of really good goals. And away, it just doesn't work the same. Whether you completely drop him for that sort of reason, I don't know, because obviously Ainsworth is just going to see what he sees in training and all that sort of thing. But it's a common trend that he does not do anything away from home.
It is odd, isn't it? It is odd.
But he's the same as, I suppose, Nunes. He was just a bit of a muppet for about a 5-second period and lost his temper and potentially lost Wycombe 2 points. But who's to say?
Who's to say? Well, just to mention, Fleetwood in 7 games have only won 1, I think, and drawn 6. So Drawing is their talent. They don't win them or lose them. So for Wycombe to go there and get a draw with 10 men, playing 10 men for 80 minutes, mind you, Wycombe are built to do that. Surely, I would have thought Fleetwood must have been a little bit pissed off with Wycombe getting a player sent off after 10 minutes. It made their job harder, didn't it?
Essentially. I think they said, didn't they put Mehmeti up front, essentially? And they say up front. I imagine he would have been part of the 10 players behind the ball kind of thing for the majority of the match.
I mean, it wouldn't have made much difference to Wycombe's lineup, would it?
No.
Because it was him. I mean, had it been a centre-back, it would have been tough work, wouldn't it?
I mean, from what I can gather, it still would have been your four at the back, Scowen and Gape in front, and then just the three across, with maybe Mehmeti slightly higher, but not so much. So it just meant that we just didn't have a striker on the pitch, essentially.
Yeah. And who needs one when Mehmeti is on the football pitch?
When Mehmeti is in form. I was talking to my Wycombe friends,
your Wycombe friends,
today, and it's just such a shame that
you've got some friends.
Got some friends.
Oh,
it's such a shame that we have Mehmeti in form and the rest of the team can't be in form with him. Because if we had an informed week, like a playoff placed Wycombe plus a Mehmeti in form, because let's be real, he's never been in form. He has his moments. But if we had both of those combined, then flip knows where we could go with that. I think we'd be winning the majority of the games.
Centre forward.
Yeah.
If we had a centre forward. A striker.
If Vokes and McCleary were in the kind of forms they were in last season, and we were kind of
Heilung on the bench,
Kai there as well at points where we need him, then it'd be very nice, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that. But does it mean that there'll be a big bid for him in January? Very, very, very possibly. But
Aberdeen, here we come.
But you'd like to think that now that we have a bit of money in the bank, that we don't need to cash in on him, unless it's a big amount. So could be hoping that aspect.
I thought it was interesting who scored against Wycombe, of course. But we'll come to that in a moment. Mehmeti's goal, then. I mean, looking at the facts and figures, Wycombe kept them out, didn't they? I mean, it didn't seem to me like Mr. Goalkeeper had to make any magnificent saves in that game.
Well, wasn't it Tafazoli and Mawson's first game together or something?
Yeah.
And apparently they were really, really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they've got it, haven't they?
Yeah.
We're sorted. Nobody's coming down the middle.
I think if you have Obita at left back, and I'd probably say McCarthy at right back, you can't be conceding too many with that, you wouldn't have thought, with the two defensive Gape and Scowen in front of them.
We will talk about their goal in a while. Have you slowed it down and had a good watch?
There's supposedly a couple of fouls in there, isn't there?
And there's a couple of other things. Right, okay. So moving on then, Wycombe got their goal, which they would need. I mean, if you got 80 minutes with 10 men, you've got to get in front when you stand a chance, because the chances of standing on a 0-0 for 90 minutes is pretty remote. You can get that goal, you've got a good chance of getting your draw to take away, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Wycombe did. And Mehmeti did exactly what he does. On the left-hand side, he burns them in the box, doesn't he?
He just darts in and finishes into the bottom corner, which he's done 3 or 4 times already this season.
And it's all well and fine, other teams having a look, knowing what he does, but what are they supposed to do about it? Stick their foot out? What can they do? If you knew that's how he plays, you're the right back, what you going to do about it?
Try and stop it. There's not to say I'm going to.
Got to get to him before he gets into the box.
Well, I'd imagine if you're physical with him, he probably wouldn't like it too much.
No. Problem is, you can only get one yellow card. That's the snag. As the right back, you can only bring him down once outside the box. And that's your limit. I wonder... I don't think they got many yellow cards, though. But he did it, didn't he? He did it again. How he gets them in that bottom corner, I do not know. What is... You have to say that's a fault of the goalkeepers. He should have that covered, surely. That angle should have that covered.
It did look a little bit weird, didn't it? Because it wasn't like a powerful shot into the ball.
No.
But not going to take it away from him too much.
No. How many goals is that? 4, isn't it?
Isn't it 5?
5. Don't know.
Which is
you look that up while we.
But it's 4 or 5 already, which is, it always takes him up to about Christmas to score that many.
Yeah. How are we going to keep hold of him? I do not know. Anyway, moving on. Wycombe then...
There's 4 goals in 7 games, which is like what we've wanted from a striker in how many years?
Yeah. Don't have a striker. Well, he's doing the job and he's not a striker. Okay, so moving on. Their goal. Okay, now you've got it on there, haven't you?
Well, so I hear.
You look at it.
And there was a lunge and a handball in there somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay, what I saw that got me was Grimmer, rather than going to block the shot, stood still, put his hand up, and gave him the space to score. Because he stopped and put his hand up before the guy took a shot, rather than going for him. When you have a look, you see, because the ball is being pissed around in the box, backwards and forwards, all around us, or nobody's got hold of it. The player goes to take a shot. Grimmer stops, put his hand up, stopped, left a great big space. Trying to think. On his left-hand side, and that's where the guy shot instead of going for him to stop him. Yeah, would you agree with that or not? I mean, I'm picking a bit on him maybe, but he stopped before the shot was kicked, didn't he? And put his hand up in the air.
But he was still covering the corner. Like, I'd say that you're being very, very
a bit
harsh.
Unfair. Okay, sorry,
because
I'm being unfair.
Because it's not only him who did it.
Okay.
There's 3 of them who did it.
Okay. Sorry, it's not your fault.
And he wouldn't have saved it anyway.
Bit of one of those goals, wouldn't have.
Well, there was a handball and a lunge in there that people weren't very happy about.
No, they're never going to be too happy. And then, of course, again, if they score with 15 minutes to go, you would think then it's bombardment, and usually that means whoever scores the second goal wins, is what I've always sort of been in my head. Whoever scores the second goal wins. Because you're up, you're going, and you're at home, and boom, 15 minutes, like, let's get. But they didn't. Wycombe did a flipping good job keeping them out. So well done, Wycombe, I think, all in all. McCleary. Donkey. You gave that game. That was one for Wycombe to win away because, as I said, Fleetwood don't win. They don't lose, but that was one we could have won, I think.
And we do need to start winning a few games here and there.
We do. We're not bombing along there, are we? Let's take a look then at this league and how others got on. What's interesting was I did say about, how after last week you had 6 games each, so the table sorts itself out a bit, and it's definitely doing that. Wycombe are 14th, so we're hovering around there in the middle. Burton, 7 games, 1 point.
Yeah, they're in pretty big trouble.
Oxford played Burton, and surprise, surprise, just about won it, relying on their one goal scorer to do it. There is talk. What's his name, Mr. Manager?
Don't know.
Kurt something or other. Robbins. I did hear through bits and pieces that
your sources.
Yeah, that he's not a happy bunny, and nor are those at Oxford with the way things are. So maybe not the sack, but one of those we've had a chat sort of things. He's not a happy person. And I think there's a chance, if things don't improve, I think he might leave, actually. So
he's been there quite a while now, hasn't he?
He has. And the truth be told, they're sitting literally just sort of 3 points above us. 3 positions above us. They got 2 more points. They're not doing what he wants them to do. They're not playing like he wants them to. And so I don't think he's over the moon. MK Dons, I do pick certain teams out because
you just like them.
Well, MK Dons are the other Buckinghamshire team, so they're not doing at all well. They've got 7 points from 7 games. Normally, 1 point a game on average is you go down. They're lucky that they've got a number of other teams who are worse.
I mean, we're on 8.
We're on 8, exactly. It's not going well, Middle of the table should have 10.
Well, they roughly do.
They roughly do. Now, if we look at the top, Ipswich and Portsmouth.
Well, I was going to say, it's probably time to take Portsmouth a little bit more seriously, isn't it? Because you write them off every year as just coming as a playoff team, and they probably still will be. But they did beat Peterborough yesterday.
They
did. Is quite good.
Yeah, I do want to. That's the point, because if we look at Ipswich sat at the top, okay, I want to look at who they've actually played and pick their points up from. Okay, they played the MK Dons, which aren't doing very well. They beat them, and Ipswich were at home. They beat Burton 1-0 at Burton. Everybody beats Burton. Wycombe beat Burton 3-0. They beat Shrewsbury, which I think they should. I think Wycombe should. They drew against Barnsley, and they've beaten Accrington. So they've not played any of the big teams. No?
No.
Okay. So when we look at who they've got coming along, now Cambridge are doing pretty well at the moment, so that might be an interesting one. Then Bristol Rovers. Then they got Sheffield Wednesday. They've got Plymouth. They got Portsmouth. So I think by the 1st of October, we're getting a good clue, actually, where these teams should be. Yeah. So I think we really got to look after 10 games where all these teams have played bottom, middle, and top. Because if we look at Portsmouth and their matches, who they've played, you see, they've played Peterborough, which is a good team. They played Port Vale, Bristol Rovers. They beat Cambridge 4-1, and Cheltenham, and lost to Lincoln. You see that.
They drew against Lincoln.
Oh, they drew against Lincoln. Sorry. Yeah. So you see, I don't think these teams we've really found out yet. I think it's going to be another 3 games where they've all actually played half decent bottom and top teams, and then we're going to have a clue. You see, if we look at Oxford, who are sat near us, they beat Burton, they beat Cheltenham, and they're both in the bottom 4, I think. And then they drew against Morecambe, they lost to Lincoln, they lost to Bristol Rovers. And so they've only picked their points up from playing the bottom 4 whatever clubs. So I think to decide on where they should be in the league, it's not right yet. It's not right. We've got to find out yet, I think. Wait until everybody's played 10 games, then we can have a real good look, I think. Do you think that'd be a fair comment?
It's difficult to say because teams just go on runs of form and they can change at any time. But there's no reason to say that we've just had a few crappy games against crappy teams, and then we'll end up picking up. We could pick up 6 points in the next 2 games and essentially double our points.
Yes.
But there's no reason that can't happen. So it's difficult to tell.
Yeah. Then who we got next? We got Port Vale next on Saturday, and then Tuesday. I'm going to miss a Tuesday game, Accrington, which is really annoying. And then Derby away. I'm going to the Derby match. Got me tickets, raring to go.
I like how he's going to the Derby match just out of spite because he dislikes Derby. He doesn't. There's no other reason why you'd want to go other than the fact that you dislike them. Is that a fair assumption?
No,
it is.
No, it's not. No, I wanted to go and see Derby. It was going to be them or Sheffield Wednesday because they're a week later because they're one of the big teams, and I just fancied going to see Wycombe play one of the big teams.
So why are you seeing Derby over Sheffield Wednesday?
Because the person I go to football with comes from Derby, and he wanted to go and see the Derby game in particular. I might add he's also from Burton as well, so he's having a bit of a rough time at the moment. So I feel sorry for him.
I wouldn't believe what he says. He's going because he dislikes Derby.
He's going because he dislikes Derby.
No, you're going.
Oh, me. I tell you what, I'm going to love it if we beat them.
Exactly.
I don't dislike them.
You do.
I think that's unfair.
You do dislike them.
I did think about going to the Oxford game as well.
You've said many a time on this program that you dislike Derby.
Not the fans.
Never said that. You dislike the fact that Derby stayed up and
they cheated. Yes. There is
and then
that.
Every week when they lose, you're like, "Oh, good riddance."
Yeah, there is that. Well, it's the same sort of. We deserve to be up because we're better, when in fact it's nothing to do with the football at all. Yeah, it's that. It was that Sunderland attitude when they first came down into Division 1. They lost that. They did learn that actually it wasn't quite that easy to beat teams like Wycombe until they played us in the final, and then it was really easy. Yeah. Okay. Moving on then. Have you got anything else to say about Wycombe and all that?
Not particularly.
Okay, what's the time? We know how long we've been going.
8:56.
Okay, begin going 27 minutes, so we'll make the next bit really quick. The music playing, I just need to look up a bit of info about this music. Love this music. This is the second album I've bought from this group. They're called Heilung. As you can tell, they come from I think it's Norway, and it's sort of like sort of melodic paths using original instruments from the time. It's folk music, Viking folk music, in fact. Bet you can't wait to listen to it.
I'm not going to.
No. They do use synths as well to sort of put a bit in there, but the language as well. And I think this is really, really interesting stuff. I did want to go and see them in concert because they actually do a sort of the dances with the music as well. Very popular, this stuff. Very popular. I just want to say, it is the authentic instruments that they use. They've made the instruments based on the stuff that was around, sort of, you know, when did the Vikings turn up? 800?
I was going to say 500.
Right, fine. So they based this on 1,500 years ago instruments, and I love this stuff. I love this stuff. Have a listen. Again, you'll find it on the usual Spotify, Bandcamp, blah blah blah. Heilung, they're called. Have a look below if you're at all interested. This album came out it came out Friday. In fact, Friday. So there you go, up to date stuff. Okay, let's move on to the next topic then. And the next topic is, does running further than the opposition make a difference? Here's your data information. Okay, just to mention that players today in the Premier League, certainly, I presume Tafazoli does as well, have GPS shirts. Therefore, that...
Well, they all do.
Right, they all do. So that is how the managers can sort of track what the players have been doing. It works out, because we mention old Mo and where he's been on a football pitch and pointing fingers when we get round to the Premier League.
As you always do.
As we always do. No, I know. I'm going to be kind to him this week. But players wearing GPS shirts, of course, it means you can track how far they've been running, whether they've been running hard, whether they haven't been running. What difference does it make? Because Mr. Manchester United manager was not a happy bunny because they didn't run very fast or very far when they lost their game to I was going to say Burton, to Brentford. That's the word. Okay, here we go. It works this way. First of all, the less possession you have, the more distance you cover. That makes sense, doesn't it?
To an extent, yes.
So Wycombe would run further than the opposition most of the time.
I suppose if you're doing it based on all football leagues, then yes.
So that almost answers the question straight off, because Wycombe, of course, want to run further. The opposition don't want to run as far. They want the ball to do the work. Wycombe chase teams down. Now, surely the question isn't what you do. It surely isn't where you run and how fast you run and how much ground you cover. It's what you do with the possession and where you run. Sorry. Can I nick some of that? That's better, a bit of vodka. Okay. A couple of years ago, Leeds and Newcastle ran the most, but they didn't win the league. So, no, it didn't give them success. All this data, by the way, comes from Sky Sports used it, and they nicked it off of Opta, and I'm nicking it off of Sky Sports. Last year, the top 5 teams that ran the furthest. Number 1, Norwich, ran further than any other team in the Premier League. Now, that didn't offer success. They went down. Number 2, Brentford were the second fastest. They came middle. Third, Burnley. They ran. But we know they would. They don't hold on to the ball. That isn't their style. They went down. Fourth, West Ham. They didn't have a bad season last season, did they?
No.
And the 5th team was Manchester City, and they won the league. So you can't judge how good a team is by the distance ran. Okay. This tells us it's how we cover the distance, and it equals our style, not the win rate. So the Mr. Haag getting them in, making them run fast and further is a bit of a waste of time. We'll come to chit chat in a minute. I'm just going to quickly give you 1 or 2 more facts. It was a couple of years ago, just 2 years ago, Chelsea outrun everybody else. But they won out of 30 games. They ran further than everybody else in a block of 30 games. They won 13. They lost 14 and they drew 3. Tells you, pointless. It doesn't make, it's not the distance. So the question has to be, how good are teams without the ball? That's the question. The best will win without the ball. Is that a fair comment? The best teams are those who are the best without the ball.
You've got to be very good with it as well.
You've got to be very good with it, but don't you have to be very good without it?
Yes.
Because even Manchester City, who rarely don't have the ball, are they one of the best without it?
Yes.
So the question is, how good are your team without the ball? And isn't this why Wycombe are successful?
Because we're decent without the ball.
We're good without the ball. And we beat teams when they lose possession, even though they have most possession.
Yeah.
And isn't that Liverpool's problem this year?
Well, we haven't actually outrun any team this year, and we normally always do. And we're probably doing less sprints than we always used to, and we're winning the ball. Well, we're not winning the ball up the pitch as we used to. So that's probably that.
So when Brentford smacked Manchester United 4-0, it wasn't because United didn't run further. It was they were useless without the ball.
I think it was. It depends on the game that you have to compare it to who you're playing against, because the 2 distances between the teams should be relatively similar if you're thinking about marking a player or doing this and that. And I think United were about 10 kilometres behind Brentford, which is a significant amount. It's suggesting that the Brentford players ran a whole kilometre more each than the United players. And I believe they did a heck of a lot more sprints than United as well. And sprints make a difference.
Right. Okay. So, do you need certain players? You say sprints, but do you need certain players not to run without the ball, such as Ronaldo? So when he does get it, he's ready to go. Is he? Is he? Everybody sort of sits and watches him, and I've done the same, thinking, "Come on, chase the goalkeeper down."
Yeah.
And when there's no hope of getting it, and you think, "You lazy bastard, come on, go for it, chase over there, chase over it." Isn't he better off not running everybody down? So when he's ready to go, he goes. Same as Vardy. Isn't that his game as well? Should he not? That isn't his job. Should he just watch the ball around the pitch, go where it goes, and then when it's his turn?
I suppose theoretically, but let's say they're doing, if the time that it takes for them to have their moment of madness when they go through on goal will be up to about 10 seconds. The recovery time for you to be able to do the same thing at that same exact pace is about 2 to 3 minutes. Hence why they probably don't move.
Right.
Because the recovery time, even though it might be minuscule, what they miss out on could potentially be too long.
Okay. So, and also just to say, of course, when you're 1-0 up or you're 1-0 down, you're going to change your approach anyway. And it's not you that's going to decide how much you're chasing that ball down. If you're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, you're going to be running further than the opposition, whether you want to or not, aren't you?
Mm.
Okay, so if you win 3-0 and the defenders hardly moved, did they have a good game? Or did they, I mean, you see what I mean? Surely the best game a defender can have is not to move and win 3-0, because that's suggesting they were in the right place all of the time, doesn't it? Should they be running their arse off at the back four? Should they? Or should they be in the right place?
Well, it depends how crap the opposition are. Because if they're that lacking that they literally don't come forward whatsoever, that the back four barely have to move, then fair enough. But you'd imagine that they do a bit.
You see, when Lukaku, we picked fault. No, I picked fault with Lukaku for hardly touching the football. But Haaland has hardly touched the football. Okay, he's hardly moved. In fact, he does not move. But what he does takes one step back and puts the ball in the net.
I think Haaland's job is literally that. Is genuinely it. He is in the 18-yard box, ready to tap it in, and he is the best at that. Lukaku, that's not his job. Was to actually link up the play.
Okay,
he had more than just finishing it.
So pointing at Ronaldo. No, that's why he on Friday night. Pointing a finger at him is a bit unfair, isn't it? Because his job was to score goals, and he did that last year, didn't he?
He did, but that's not to say that they wouldn't be even more successful if they had someone else there instead. Which throughout the last 4 games they have been more successful without him. So it wasn't necessarily his fault, and it wasn't to say the players he was with were playing well, because they definitely weren't. But would they be more successful with someone else there who ran a bit more?
See, I'm bringing this up because Match of the Day brought this up and actually pointed a finger at certain teams, certain players, for not covering a distance, and suggested that was bad football. I'm looking at this, don't believe that anymore. Now, here's a bit of older data. This is old because they haven't sort of written it down since. Between 2010 and 2015, 77% of teams that covered the first 10 minutes covered more of the pitch in the first 10 minutes. 77% of that team went 1-0 up in the first 10 minutes. Okay. Now that I think is quite interesting, because that's talking about slow starts, isn't it?
Mm.
And isn't that Liverpool's problem? That they're slow. They don't cover the pitch in the first 10 minutes. The other team do and score the first goal. I mean, it doesn't plan out for the rest of the game, but when you first kick off, go.
Then, to be fair, I don't think we've conceded that many times in the first 10 minutes, and we do have possession of the ball the whole time. But we normally were famous for starting off very quickly, which we have lost.
Whereas you've actually let in the first goal in the last 7 out of 8 games, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, 44% is an interesting one. 44% of goals are scored from a straight line sprint. That can be from a cross. So they don't have to have the ball. What I mean is somebody does a sprint from the halfway line and the ball is crossed to them. But 44% is from a player just running straight at goal, gets the ball at his feet and scores. Now, there's an interesting one. Sprints. You brought up sprints. There's your sprints. How important a player can just go. And to be able to just go, you do not need that player running all over the bloody pitch the rest of the time. He's got to be ready to go. That's where 44% of goals come from. So you need the one player not running around. In fact,
that's why the way players will train will be they'll have an aerobic base, but then they'll do maybe 30 seconds of very intense work, followed by a minute of rest, followed by another 30 seconds of intense work, because that's the majority of the way that football is played.
So in the end, the coach, now the average the average sort of pitch covering by each player is 10.3 kilometres per game. But it has to be down to the coach as to who covers how much ground, who stands still, who moves, who does move. I mean, a goalkeeper isn't going to cover much space, for instance, etc., etc. So each position is going to be different. You don't want all of them running all over like headless chickens, chasing the ball down. So they reckon that a central defender is the one that runs the least, and a central midfielder is the one that runs the most. Now, here's just a point that when we talked about, I've almost finished, when we talked about Wycombe playing a back three instead of back four, and we just saw, oh yeah, they could do that, they're pretty good at central defence. Don't even occur to me that in a back three, the middle centre back would have a bigger distance to cover than the two would in a back four. So if you're going to play three at the back, the guy in the middle has got to be bloody fit and run a damn sight further. You can't have a slow, big centre back in a back three. You need a fast, fit centre back in a back three, more so than in a back four. They cover more space, And I think we
overlook
that.
I don't think like that is generally taken into consideration as long as the players are fit in general. I can't believe that the distance would be that much greater as being a middle defender than it would be in the other two. Not to say that that's not true, but I can't believe that you'd pick it based on that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And here is my last point, and that is when they looked at Premier League compared with the other Euro teams, your Spain, Italy, Germany, and they looked at. We talk about the Premier League being quicker and blah blah blah. Is it? Well, here you go. They looked at intensity, sprinting, and volume of running. Okay. Now, in fact, two of the other leagues covered more distance, all the players. The Premier League came top for intensity only. Now, of course, this means when you recruit somebody, they got to be. What do you think the word intensity means? It means this, doesn't it? Concentration. Hard 90 minutes of no fault.
It means more sprinting.
But they looked at this, and that is what the Premier League is about. The intensity of 90 minutes, concentration. That is, no error, you've got to be on it 100%. And that is what they have to look at when deciding on bringing a player over into the Premier League. Will they make these mistakes? Trouble is, you cannot measure effort. You cannot measure effort. You can see it, I think. You can see when a player is lazy, but I don't think you can actually measure effort. And I think that's the manager and coach can see it, but maybe we can't because we haven't been told what the players are to do.
But then saying that, I do think the distance covered and the number of sprints are good indicators.
Okay.
Because more often than not, if the distance if they do the distance covered and the number of sprints, like when they compare on Sky Sports, then the ones where it's more do generally be when they're winning. That could be because they're winning as opposed to anything else, but they correlate, I'd say. Not to say that they mean one another, but they do correlate.
Okay.
I would say.
Any more to say on this topic?
I'd say Ten Hag was probably right to get them in and do more running.
Right, in that particular case.
Yeah.
But that's for him to judge, not for Match of the Day to judge. It depends on what he was after and what style of football he's using, yes?
Yeah.
But you can't just pick on whatever team hasn't run further and say that's why they lost, can you? That's what they did. They said they didn't run as far, therefore they lost. That isn't true, is it?
Not necessarily.
Wait, don't.
Well, that happens.
Don't yawn. Don't yawn.
Past, no?
Right, 25. We've got 10 minutes. Okay, let's move on then. 10 minutes. Let's move on. Quickly. Right, let's have a quick look at one or two games. We will start with the boring one: Everton 0, Liverpool 0. There's a boring one. What fiddles went on, Kieran?
We hit the woodwork 4 times, I think, which was cool. We still Elliot is still our best player, which is still a problem because he is 19 and really shouldn't be our best player in centre mid. Talking of midfielders, Fabinho is flipping awful.
He is. He is. Yeah.
I used to think he was okay in the games against, like when we have the ball the whole time and their counter attack isn't very good. He is fine, but if there's any intensity on him, he is dreadful.
Should Liverpool have had 10 players on the pitch instead of 11?
No. If we're giving red cards for that, then flipping it, we're giving red cards for a lot of things, in my opinion.
Okay.
Not to say that there shouldn't be red cards for a lot of things.
I think what really stood out was Everton goalkeeper celebrating for a 0-0 at home. I think tells you an awful lot.
Yeah,
I don't think Liverpool are going to win the league. No. I think they just need to take a year off. I think this is anybody's league. I think things are going to happen that are odd, which is how Aston Villa won, Manchester City won. Was it a bit odd?
Stevie's buzzing, you know.
There was a mistake in there as well, wasn't there? The goal, was there a VAR?
Coutinho scored a goal and they gave it offside.
That's right.
And blew his whistle beforehand.
Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It was a goal.
Yeah.
Absolute rubbish. VAR. Dump it. Dump it.
No, dump the people.
Dump the people.
VAR is fine. It's the people who run it, and they did a little investigation today, and the FA have apologised because they got it wrong.
That one or all of them?
I think they said 3 of them. And which is 3 on the same day is a bit manic.
I don't get it. I don't get it. How can everybody else see it? I go to church in the morning. Everybody there talks to me about, oh, didn't they get it all right? How can everybody see, apart from the Wallies who are the professionals? Why can't they see it? I don't understand.
You do wonder.
I was watching a game this afternoon with Arsenal, Manchester City. Arsenal's first goal was this. United. Rarely have I said United have won a game, so it's just not natural. And Arsenal scored, and it was disallowed. Get it? It was a foul. Okay, so it was disallowed. Was a foul. It was the first goal. It was a foul, but it wouldn't have been given had Arsenal not scored. Yeah, anywhere else on a football pitch, if it led to a corner, they would have been given the corner. Yeah. Throw in, they would have given a throw. But because it led to a goal, the goal was disallowed.
So
a rule is a rule. I make your bloody minds up.
So that's an issue that we're giving fouls in some situations based on the context rather than.
Yeah. They would never have given that a foul anywhere else on a football pitch. So ask me, was it a foul? Yeah, but you wouldn't have got it normally. So give it, crap. Brentford 5, Leeds 2. Tony. Hello, Tony.
And VAR in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, what did they do wrong in that?
They were supposed to give them a penalty, and then the Leeds manager got angry and got sent off.
Right, yes. I can't remember them all. There were so many wrong errors.
You asked me yesterday, should Tony go to the World Cup? Yes. And I kind of said no at the time, just be like, no, of course he shouldn't. But I mean, maybe.
Who else? We discussed this the other day, didn't we? Last week we said about.
Of course it's going to be Kane.
Yeah, but it needs somebody else. You can't just have one striker because his ankle's going to get blown off anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there is anyone we really have who can.
You would say Mehmeti, but he's not English.
No. We don't particularly have anyone who can particularly rival Kane up front. So that's why it's perfect having. Was it Vardy and Sturridge before? Because it just gave us such a variety of decent striker. Whereas now, all our strikers are very similar.
Yes.
No idea.
Chelsea 2, 1 to West Ham. Should have been 2 to West Ham, shouldn't it? There was another Chelsea got given one the other day. I can't remember. That was on something to do with the goalkeeper. They seem to be giving all of them.
He's been rubbish this season.
He has. He's been awful, hasn't he? Yeah. He was. There was something else the other day. He got one as well where he shouldn't have, like a VAR decision. But I can understand why Mr. West Ham was fuming. I would have been. That was just. I mean, the daft thing about that one is it was just stupid. How? The ball was nowhere near the bloody goalkeeper. I could see the player jump.
Well, the boot brushes him like that, doesn't it? Which is.
But the ball's gone. The ball's gone.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's not a foul, though, does it? And it wasn't a foul because he literally just brushes his boot over like that.
I can only say these people are paid, but by who? That's the question. Newcastle 0, Crystal Palace 0.
Didn't see it.
Nor did I. Shouldn't have bothered. Nottingham Forest 2, Bournemouth 3. Well, that was a strange one because Nottingham Forest were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And you think, that's it. Bournemouth had it. They're rubbish. They've had it. They're not going to do anything. 2-0 up. They've had it. Nottingham Forest, I felt sorry for some of their players, the ones that aren't there anymore. You get the team up, don't you? It's a bit like Akin Fenwood did it for other people, where you go and win and you get up, all the excitement, the hugs, the drinking. Yeah, we've done it. We're up. You're not. We're going to buy a whole new team. Bye-bye. And, oh, God, I'm going back down. I mean, that's unfair because the team go up. No, it's not. It's the name goes up. And so do the prices of the tickets. I think that's generally the idea.
Yeah.
So Bournemouth, the team from last year, beat Nottingham Forest, the new team of this year, 3-2. So I'm actually quite happy about that, really.
The team from last year?
Yeah, Bournemouth are the same team that came up, aren't they?
Yeah, they came up.
Yeah, but it's the same team.
Oh, I see. Yes.
The players.
Yeah.
Which is why Buddy Boy got the sack.
Yeah.
Because of his moaning.
Well, he wants to have a Forest situation, but he didn't, did he?
That's right. I mean, which now the owners are going to say proves that what our team is, we're good enough. Because we all know why he got the sack, don't we? It wasn't losing 9-0, it's because of his comments about the people that own it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, if you rewind and go and look at his comments with Fulham and why he got the sack from Fulham, it's virtually the same. Does he want the sack, do you think?
No, he just has a plan. He's not afraid to say what his plan is to the public, which he probably shouldn't.
But he did the same thing twice.
Well, you'd imagine now he'd probably learn. He didn't think they were going to sack him for it, though, didn't he?
Well,
not already, anyway.
Well, he's a championship manager, isn't he?
I think he's pretty good, but he does need to shut up.
Yeah, he needs to shut up. He needs to learn what to say. Tottenham 2, Fulham 1. Well, our friend scored again for Fulham. Yeah. Tottenham. Our friend, Mr. Chinese.
How many friends do we have? Mr. Chinese?
No, he's Korean.
He's not Chinese.
He's Korean. South.
Might have to edit that one.
Son.
Yeah. He hasn't.
It doesn't matter. I just got where he came from wrong.
Yeah.
I wasn't being racist at all. I like Chinese food. Right. Son hasn't scored a goal.
No.
Now
he's your favourite.
Mo and Son, the two golden guys from last year.
They scored a goal. 2
Mo and none Son. What is happening, Kieran?
Well, Haaland's saved them all, hasn't he? He's gone. It's taking all the goals.
They're not going to catch up.
No, no one's going to catch up with Haaland.
Well, somebody needs to stand on his ankle.
Hopefully someone will. I hope it's Nunes.
But it's strange, isn't it?
My favourite thing from the Tottenham game was Richarlison scoring, taking a shot.
Yes.
And then
the VAR cancelling it.
He deserves that, to be honest. He's a twat.
Yes, he is. He's the sort of twat you love if he plays in your team.
I'm sure he would be.
Isn't he? If he was in your team, you'd love it because everybody else hates him.
Yeah.
But he's not the one you like in everybody else's team. And he is good. That is the problem. What is he English?
I still don't think he's good.
Is he English?
Not quite.
All right. Wolves 1, Southampton 0. No shock there, is it? Scoring a goal.
Didn't
One. But no, I wouldn't have bothered. And the Aston Villa 1, City 1.
We've talked about that.
Have we?
Yeah.
I don't remember. And of course, apart from, I'll say something about United and Arsenal, and that is the biggest difference. I mean, very similar in the sense of could have been either team, could have won that. I would say you could see the difference though in lack of trust of goalkeepers. I think if you were to have a look at the quantity of passes in Arsenal's back half and in the opposition half was fairly equal. They were happy to play it to the goalkeeper and out, and happy when they were closed down in the opposition half to go back to the goalkeeper and back out. United wouldn't do that. They never, ever did I remember them passing it back to their fullbacks, centre halves, or goalkeeper. Never would they pass it back.
Mm.
They had no trust in the back. They've obviously been told you do not pass the ball this way. You belt it out for a throw-in if you need to, but do not pass it back. And that stood out. And I thought that was interesting because if Arsenal didn't have a great game, but the next team that play them, I presume their coaches would have seen that as well. Brighton last game, and then we're off. Brighton 5, Leicester 2. Leicester are bottom of the table with 1 point. Do you know that?
Poor Brendan.
Is he going soon?
Yeah, perhaps.
How long? You look at that.
Well, he plays Villa next week, so if he loses that, then he's definitely gone. But if Gerrard loses that, then he might be gone. He's probably gone.
Okay. I mean, you look at that. I think Mr. West Ham will get away with that because they'll all feel sorry for him. But at the bottom 3 is West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Leicester.
I think Fulham will drop off. I want Southampton. I don't want Southampton to drop off. I think they might as well. Everton I go down as well because they're dickheads.
They're dickheads.
Yeah.
And this is a professional view of Everton, is they're dickheads.
Well, I didn't know we were doing the professional program.
Okay. And looking at the where top 7, we got to do that to get to Liverpool. Arsenal still there, top of the table, followed by City, Tottenham, Brighton, United, Chelsea, Liverpool.
It's considering how awful Liverpool have been, it's nice that we're still within touching distance.
Yeah, 9 points out of 18.
Yeah, it's not good. Where we are.
Well,
I mean, we're 5 points behind City, which is not. And if Thiago's back in training tomorrow, we'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Okay, you'll be fine. And Brighton,
I hope they do well still. Hopefully he'll replace Gareth as the England manager.
I mean, looking at that, I think anything can happen. I really do. I think that's fun.
I do think City will run away with that at some point.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're going to give that a miss now then, and we'll move on. And just to say, next week, of course, we've got Wycombe and all. And then the thing, I've looked up another interesting data topic, which it's not data really. It's all about the transfers and how that's going to affect European other clubs in Europe, because of the amount. You know how much was spent over there, and you know how much was spent in the rest of Europe.
Not a lot.
Nothing like that if you add them together, and so the effect all this is having abroad, and why can we spend all this money, and how much better is the Premier League than all the others. And we'll take a little look at that next week, just to say, and last but not underneath I'm going to actually put the times each of these topics we've talked about today start, so you can go and click on them and go to that subject if you would rather miss a bit, or not. So makes life a lot easier for you to find things, basically.
Probably slightly pointless now that they've watched the whole programme. Unless they want to rewatch it.
Oh yeah.
Rewatch the section.
Good point, I should have said this at the beginning. Okay, with that, we'll say goodbye. Kieran, say goodbye.
Bye.
And I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.